First of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for 9 Billion and Counting, Abolishing Hunger. My name is Brian Boer. I'm Dean of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences, and I will quiz you after that. I'm only going to say it once, and after I say it, I'll say CFANS all day, and I'm going to expect you to remember what that stands for, because people have a tough time with it. But it's a beautiful day. It's great to be here during the fall. It seems appropriate to have it during harvest. I'm happy to say, I was just telling Butch Buschetti that this week last time I was riding a beet harvester in northern Minnesota, which was kind of an interesting experience for a kid from Iowa. Had never been on one before. And it was funny because for me, the kid on it was complaining because the GPS had gone out, so he had to steer the tractor. and so he wouldn't let me drive it. It was sort of one of these, come on, I've driven tractors my entire life, and I've driven without GPS my entire life, so I think I know how to do it. But it sort of gives some perspective on where we're at today with what's happening in ag technology and so on. We do have, as you've been watching the screen roll by, we have a full day today, so we hope you can stick with us all day here. This morning, of course, we have the Borlaug lecture, and following that at about 10:45, we'll have the Global Food Security Symposium, which will highlight a lot of the work that our students and faculty are doing here in the college, and I think that's a great opportunity to see the scope and breadth of work that we have going on here related to food security and trying to address issues of hunger. At 12:30, we'll have a working group that represents public-private partnerships and that role in food security, which is a really growing and emerging part, and I think as we talk about that today, we'll talk about how so many of the issues in agriculture now spill over into the public sector, whether you're talking about nutrient management, fertilizer management, crop pests and diseases and so on. That's affecting what's happening in our waterways and so on. And so there's a big aspect of how we interact with public and private sector. After that, we're really excited about, we'll be dedicating the Eldon Seal Garden at about 3 o'clock. So I do hope you can join us for that. And of course, we have a special other presentation there as well. It's under wraps, so I'm not sure if we can take it out of wraps now or not. Jim, what do we're trying to keep it a secret, but just hang with that until 3 o'clock and come up to the Eldon Seal Garden. You'll see what we have in store there. So the theme today really, of course, I mentioned the 9 billion and counting, and it is about abolishing hunger, and I've used that quite a bit over time in talking about the goals of the college. And when I talk about it, I often get the feedback that seems like an awfully large agenda and perhaps unachievable. But of course, it's the goal that's been set out for this college for many years, and one of the people that's been key to that, of course, has been Dr. Borlaug, Nobel Prize winner and alum of the University of Minnesota. And when I talk about it, I unpack it just a little bit into three things when I talk about abolishing hunger and what that means. It means for all time, and for all people, and for all living things, when I talk about it. And the for all time part is the element of technology and the environment. That if we're going to abolish hunger with a growing population, the 9 billion counting, we're going to have to develop and invest in new technologies to advance our productivity. And we're going to have to do that in a way that doesn't deplete our natural resources, whether it's energy, water, soils. We have to maintain the sustainability of those. If we're going to do it for all time, we have to do it with technology and sustaining those natural resources. I talk about for all people in the context of even today where theoretically, from a caloric standpoint and nutrient standpoint, we can feed the population of the world. And still, even in Minnesota, I know Second Harvest Heartland is here today. I'm proud to work with them quite a bit on things. Still, we find 14% of the people, even in the Twin Cities, where we have plenty of food. Certainly, we may have some accessibilities at times based on income levels, but even then, 14% are undernourished or under food secure. So how do we change that dynamic? For all people is about policies, international trade prospects we see a lot of issues with now, and trying to advance equal access and availability of food as a human right. I think Dr. Borlaug said food is a human right. The third part, the all living things piece, is simply that element that as we're cropping, as we're developing new lands and so on, that we protect the biodiversity that's such a key part of our environment. So as we look, for example, at pollinator habitat, bee populations, this morning in the paper there's an article about pheasant populations. Certainly we're looking at how do we sustain that broader biodiversity. So if we're going to abolish hunger, we have to do it for all time, for all people, and those living things that we find beneficial. And there's no better way to kick that off, I think, than the Borlaug lecture this morning. And it was organized by the graduate students of the Applied Plant Sciences program, so demonstrating their commitment to doing this and engagement as well. And that's in collaboration with the Steakman Borlaug Center for Sustainable Plant Growth and the CFANS Alumni and Constituent Relations. I do need to thank, we never pull these off without some support, and we have several sponsors, including Syngenta, the Minnesota Agri-Growth Council, the Minnesota Corn Growers Association, and the Minnesota Discovery Research and Innovation Economy Initiative, which is here at the University of Minnesota, represented by Global Food Ventures. I do want to welcome a few special guests today with us, and one is Jeannie Borlaug-Laube, who's here in the front, Dr. Borlaug's daughter, so welcome, Jeannie. We also have Kevin Kotze, who's with the World Food Prize, up from Des Moines, taking a little extra jaunt from there. So welcome, Keegan. Thank you for coming today. And and only because I haven't seen her yet, but Representative Alice Hausman is here. But I'm not sure Representative Hausman. She's a tremendous supporter of the University of Minnesota. This is in her district. The St. Paul campus is in her district. She's been a tremendous supporter of us on many levels, including the Bell Museum, which if you're down on the northwest corner of campus, you'll see this new building rising up from the prairie sort of a thing, and it is the new Bell Museum. And I certainly want to recognize that Mark Nestle, who works with Representative Hamilton's office, another strong supporter of the college here at the University of Minnesota. So thank you all for joining us here today. And with that, I will turn this over to a graduate student, Jeff Neihart. He's the chair of the Borlaug Memorial Lecture Committee of the Applied Plant Sciences Student Group, and he will introduce Jan Lowe, our guest speaker.